Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host, GamerK, and it's time for the final video of September. It's been good to be back, and I can't wait to continue the rest of this year. And to end this month, it's time to go in a galaxy far, far, far away from anything Star Wars related, because this isn't a Star Wars video. This is a video, my review of 2021's Guardians of the Galaxy video game. And oh boy, did this game live up to what it needed to do. After the god-awful entanglement that was the Avengers video game, developed by Eidos Montreal, which almost kind of makes sense of the name because that game was god-awful, and from what I hear, it may be leaving online stores pretty soon because it was so drac. You had a perfect premise. People playing as the Avengers. You did not have to bring in microtransactions or anything like that. Or, maybe add in some good bosses, which from watching the game, it didn't. But all reviews say it was garbage. So when this game was announced, I was scared. But thankfully, I put all the stuff about the Avengers aside and decided to give it a playthrough. And you know what? It was a great time. It was a really, really great time. And also one thing I love about this game, What the fuck? I just remembered this because I haven't played this game in about 2 years. They give you advertising for the Avengers game in here. My firewood can use some kindling. What I love about this game is that the case is dual-sided. So either you get the original case, so it looks like this, or you can flip it and get this stylized comic-esque look in cover, which I honestly prefer. And I just love this. This is just a great image. But going into the full game now, am I overhyping it because I had a good time? Or actually, no, a good majority of reviewers love it too. I mean, okay, yeah, some think it's a little but it's worth the rock. So to start off, this game takes place in a kind of a flashback thing. And one thing I do love is that anything that's creative needs to have its original idea, because if they went off from what the movie was, then obviously this game wouldn't feel original. The game would not feel like it was something that took so much time to create, because if you're just copying, pasting stuff from a game, there's no real purpose to it. But this one takes a different sidestep on Star-Lord's backstory, and honestly, it gets us to the combat right away, with the Guardians going into a secure location of the galaxy, it kind of looks like a Bermuda Triangle of the galaxy, where old spaceships, old areas are destroyed and sent here. And we're looking for a beast to give to I swear to God, I'm a semi-professional. Yes, I'm aware I should have this stuff written down, but I can only write down so much. Do you want me to find a way? Do you want me to turn you off for the rest of the year? Yeah, I know. I don't know how to do that. It's just an empty threat. Let's see. So we're going off to find some elusive monster in this realm, in this zone, in order to gain favor with, I'm looking her up right now, Lady Hellbender, who is this masculine character, and I honestly love her. She is a badass character, and basically the story is we just gotta find a beast for her in the zone. One thing I do love is how they have 2 little extra trophies in this game. One is for you to, once you collect enough units throughout the game, you can pay off your fine of the Nova Corps, which effing sucks. And in one, there's a mini game right off the bat of the game where you compete with Rocket to see who can destroy the most monsters while getting to the objective point. And if you win, suck it, rodent. But during that time, a bunch of other stuff happens, and we get thrusted with the Nova Corps, and the Unified Church of Truth becomes the practically main antagonist of the game for the most part. Yeah, that makes sense. An intergalactic church trying to brainwash people. Gee, never seen that in real life. No, I think they get what I'm talking about. And again, the story goes really, really well with the Guardians, and it's something that's actually really entertaining, especially when we run into an old flame of Quills, who's a Nova Corps officer, and we also meet her delinquent daughter, Nikki. Yes, they're going with that chestnut. They're going for it. And obviously, there's that whole BS for the player of, okay, there's no way this is Quill's daughter, but then at the same time, could it be? I do love that little intrigue thing that they've done to amp up the drama throughout the game. And the level, going through the story, basically, we have to deal with this guy, Grand Unifier Riker, and he just sounds like a pretentious religious asshat trying to control people. Seriously, I've done this in practically so many games I've played. Why is it in this? And then obviously, well, not obviously, we have to go throughout the galaxy, finding a whole bunch of teammates later on. And we get to run into a bunch of cool characters like Cosmos, who I really love Cosmos. The Collector, if I'm recalled, it makes an appearance in this game. And a big thing in this game is this power that is used later on to entice people into their perfect lives and to be happy. But some things are a little too good to be true, and it dives into that so much in this game, and it's done beautifully. I know I'm babbling a lot about nonsense and stuff, but the game does the story that it's building, it does it good, and it takes ideas from other things, but it makes it its own, it becomes its own thing. And it's more about, you know what? I don't even know what I'm talking about. Like, I'm trying to get the point across of what it is without spoiling it, basically. But also, we get Adam Warlock, who's one of the coolest characters in the game. And I still need to watch the third movie, so I know he's going to be good in that one. But obviously, it's a Guardians of the Galaxy game, so there's going to be some hilarious moments with the crew, which, okay, I'm kind of sad that we only play as Star-Lord throughout the entire game. I'm a little mad about that, but at the same time, during combat, we do get to activate the special combat abilities through the other characters and upgrade them as you progress through the game. As you do in combat, you will get points, which you will spend on special abilities in order to beef up your other characters. And activating the abilities are so much fun. Plus, they can always do combo attacks with each other character. And they're actually competent in the game. And the revival system, when a character is down, you go to them and revive them in the same way as Ghostbusters 3, which the Ghostbusters 3, aka the Ghostbusters 2009 video game, again, aka Ghostbusters 3, which I like how they did the healing thing, and we didn't have to use like potions or anything like that kind of system, and I do like it. The combat in the game is surprisingly well done, having it be really open, being able to use Quill's blasters in succession, obviously cool-off periods, gaining special elemental attacks such as ice, electric, wind, and plasma, which you obtain throughout the game, and it adds so much to the combat, which I do love. I do love how Quill's the only one in the game that gains new abilities via story, and everyone else gets their already abilities, but we just have to unlock them. And I do love how, like, there's a smorgasbord of different types of enemies to do, and they all react differently to different elemental attacks. So you really, really gotta kind of study them and how they attack and how they defend in order to combat them. And some of them, like the gels, have different elemental weaknesses, which I do love. And they also implemented the stagger system when it comes to either boss fights or the enemy fights. And I do love how you can also do kind of reaction commands with certain enemies in order to get really, really cool cinematic sections. It's not like the Kingdom Hearts reaction commands, but it still does its good job to keep the fighting, the battles going a little bit not too long, but also making you kind of have to strategize, and it works. Also, another thing they implemented is the the huddle system, where as a meter builds up, you hit buttons and you get to have the Guardians huddle up, and you have to listen to what their complaints are and kind of build and respond to what they're saying. And if you pick the right one, your team gets an immunity for a little bit, which really helps in dire situations against really tough enemies. Going from combat, the scenery and the game, all the levels in this 15-chapter game, which I do enjoy the length of it. Every area has their own color palette, their own atmosphere, from the restricted zone from the beginning to the ships of the Nova Corps, where also throughout this game, throughout every area, you can definitely, I'm having a hard time talking right now, but basically, you can explore the environment and interact with certain things. Like at the Nova Corps area, you can look up people's rap sheets. You can look up Rocket's rap sheet, Drax's, Star-Lord's, and in Guardians fashion, every character has their own little comments and little personality issues that they always voice out to everyone. And it's glorious. Like, every section of this game has funny moments. Even when you're just traversing the area, you can respond to people's conversations with two different choices, and you get a hilarious reply from the characters every single time. I mean, they give the illusion of choice in this game, which, to be fair, isn't that much choice. More like it's not like a Telltale game where the choices really make a branching difference. Like, there's no real difference. And going back to each level, everything is beautiful. From the Beast Planet that the barbarian chick that I mentioned who rules the beasts, to Nowhere, which this gross looking city, and they really did a good job of making every level feel super stylized, super unique. And there are moments in this game where you can as you're on the ship, you can talk with each Guardian, like have a little conversation before the next section. And in each level, there are a number of collectibles that are that pinpoint to one of the Guardians. And when you go to them on the ship, you get to hear a little bit about the Guardians' backstories a little bit and the stuff they went through, which is really, really ingenious. I mean, yeah, you get a trophy for it. Also, when you go to nowhere, go to the, like, don't go right throughout the story. Go throughout the many areas, because there's a casino area where you have to play this claw machine thing, and you have to pick a certain doll that Gamora would like, because that's also a collectible. Find collectible guides throughout YouTube and stuff, and if you want to collect everything. It's such a cool journey, because you get to really bond with the crew and kind of explore their backstories. And in one, Rocket talks about Lila, and I'm going to be honest, I knew about Lila before the third movie came out because I played the Telltale game, and I cried like a little bitch every single time, but I'll get to that when I talk about that game. There's even some missable areas where you can talk to characters, like when you talk to Drax in Nowhere. It gets real emotional as he talks about his family, that he lost. And the entirety of this game, as much as it is about the combat and the humor, it really pinpoints the serious moments for the Guardians. And it's just done so beautifully. The action in the game is done spectacular. The animation, the graphics are comic style-esque, but also high gloss 3D, and it's beautifully done. Let's see, I talked about the characters, collectibles. Oh! The boss fights are so good. Each boss has their own unique kind of gimmick that you really got to pay attention to and really listen and actually have to think about it. Like, it took me a good number of times to beat certain bosses because I had to, like, pinpoint exactly how to take them down and how to go throughout it. Like the Blood Brothers in Nowhere. It's only you and Drax that are fighting them, if I'm remembering correctly. And the closer they are together, their armor activates. But when you get them further apart from each other, their armor will go away. And that's your indicator. That's an ingenious way to do boss fights. Like, I miss boss fights like this in video games. I want boss fights to challenge me, not just hit the button until they're dead or counter and then they're dead. I want a real challenge where the bosses don't make it easy for you. And I do love, again, the combat. The Guardians are efficient when in combat, and it's done perfectly. Also, aside from collectibles, you can also find outfits of different versions of the Guardians. All of them. From the different comics, from the different stories, and especially from the very first movie. And Gamora's suit in this game is nice, but putting her in the outfit from the first movie, I mean, yeah, they change it up a little bit. It definitely works. Speaking of Gamora, I'm glad they really didn't hit so much with the romance of her and Peter in this game. It gets a little... It would get a little tedious to have a relationship stuff affect your gameplay or affect your combat. So I'm glad they didn't go that route, because it would have just been another slog to have to go through, because we got enough issues in this game. And when I say issues, I mean in the story, like to tackle in the story, and they're all done. Also, my Thanos boss fight from my top 13 gimmick bosses definitely is a quality in this game of every single boss having their own little gimmick of how to defeat them, and it's done. And again, it's like I said, it's done super well. It's done in a way that I want more boss fights like this in future games, and hopefully in Spider-Man 2 we'll get that. Let's see. Okay. One last thing before I get to the little numbers of this. It wouldn't be a Guardians of the Galaxy game if it didn't have an amazing soundtrack. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy game and Telltale definitely had a good soundtrack. Does this game? F yes! This game has one of the greatest collection of actual soundtracks I've ever come across. And the funny thing is that during the huddle thing, once you succeed in it and your characters become immune, Peter will click his Walkman and a song will be playing during combat, during the boss fights, during sections of the game, during enemy fights, and also you can select the music on the ship to have it play throughout the ship, which is awesome. And also this game came up with its own rock band called Star-Lord, which is where Peter got his nickname because he loved the band as a kid. And it's this heavy metal, freaking badass band. I'm telling you, they put in the effort to have their own fictional band, but I want to go to a concert of it because the music is so good. Songs of Zero to Hero. I can't remember the rest of the songs because I kept replaying Zero to Hero so many times. But the rest of the soundtrack is great. And I'm going to be honest, there are some hilarious moments when certain songs play during combat. They got Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up. They got Lover Boy. They've got Holding Out for a Hero. They got Wham! Wake Me Up Before You Go Go. Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster Cult. Turn Up the Radio. Be Happy. White Wedding. Hit Me With Your Best Shot. Rock, Rock Till You Drop. Twisted Sisters, We're Not Gonna Take It. Anytime that comes on during a fight, a boss fight especially, I get so freaking pumped. But there are some hilarious moments because the music will come on will be random. So imagine fighting this giant, monstrous, tentacle creature and you do the power-up thing where you're immune and Blondie's Call Me is playing. Or you're fighting the Fame, Fing, Fang, Foom. Okay, I'm going to be straight with you guys. I had no clue what Fing Fang Foom was until I played this game. Yeah, like I've stated, aside from Spider-Man, because I grew up watching Spider-Man stuff and playing the games, my knowledge of Marvel, aside from Spider-Man, is a little mixed and mild. But, yeah, imagine fighting that Fing Fang Foom, and We Built This City starts playing. Also, the final boss of the game, we get the final countdown. And one of the coolest moments of the game, and it's so badass. And every point of the game where the soundtrack does play immediately, like there's this scene where Peter's in this illusion where the Guardians are fine and his mother's alive and he's back on Earth. I didn't know what to do. Don't Fear the Reaper constantly plays. And there's no prompt of telling you what to do, which I love. It's not so handholdy with how to handle everything. You figure it out as you continue to fail. I mean, how am I supposed to know? I'm supposed to move the controllers and struggle to get out of his mother's hand and blast her face off. Okay, that sounds bad, but I swear to God, there's a point. But yeah, this amazing soundtrack, plus its own original rock band. The soundtrack of the game is more than enough for the ask a price, which I think since 2 years it's gone down a little bit. So, also, the main story of this game is 17 and a half hours long if you don't die constantly or if you don't F up. For completionists who want to get every single trophy, all the collectibles, about 25 and a half hours. So it doesn't feel like a chore to do because you basically can go back to each chapter with your new upgrade abilities. And it's one of those games where as you play through the game and you get new abilities, you can go back to previous chapters and obtain the rest of the collectibles. And that's really good. And exploring this game is like exploring an amazing effed up galaxy. Also, there's one scene on Nowhere where this drunk, freaky looking monster remembers us. And we gotta bullshit our way through it, and it leads to one of the most hilarious scenes I've ever seen in a long time. Play the game in order to find out what I'm talking about, but overall, the Guardians of the Galaxy game does everything right. It creates a unique and fun alternate version of the Guardians, gives each character their own unique powers in combat. Everyone's competent in combat. The story gives an emotional feel, while at the same time having plenty of humor, plenty of intrigue. Boss fights and enemies give you a great challenge. The environments are varied and gorgeous to look at. The collectibles are smart and fun to find. And again, it adds a little bit extra lore when you talk to the crew about it. So you get a little bit more definition of them. And it's one of these games that is a redeeming game, because this game needed to be good because of the awfulness that was the Avengers game. And I say it definitely delivered. There are a couple hiccups here and there. A couple boss fights could have been a little bit better. Some things could have been a little not so, okay, I saw that coming kind of thing. But at the same time, this game does a great job of making the Guardians not just big on the cinema screen, but big in the video games. And if you don't agree with me, that's okay. GamerK's final verdict for Guardians of the Galaxy, the game, is an even 8 out of 10. I was going to give it a 9, but after rethinking everything, the fact that a couple things could have done a little bit longer, like maybe in certain sections of the levels, we could have played as Rocket, Groot, Drax, or Gamora. We constantly being Star-Lord throughout the majority of the game definitely hits a hindrance. When in the previous game you could have played as any of the Avengers, so it's like they dialed back on that more and focused more on the story, which I appreciate, and making you feel like you're playing with the Guardians, because there's a lot of snarky comebacks from Rocket. There's a lot of irritating, metaphorically inaccurate comments from Drax, which are brilliant. Obviously, Groot's being Groot, and a little tension between Gamora and Peter would have been appreciated, but not so heavily on it. Also, kind of mad that Yondu wasn't in this game. I mean, they show him for his rap sheet and everything, but he doesn't make an appearance, which I kind of wish they did. But overall, this game does everything right. It does everything it could to make it a game that's worthy of the Guardian name. And I'm happy to have played it and tested that out myself. So if you guys want a fun game to play, and if you're a Marvel fan, if you're a Guardians fan, it's definitely a game that you must have. Even if it's just to listen to all the banter of the Guardians. And that's it for this week. That's it for this month. Thank you guys for joining on this video. Like, comment, subscribe down below. And join me next time where we're back to Villain Month this October. And we're going to start off by looking at some animated villains that have nothing to do with the Kingdom of the Mouse. This is GamerK, logging out.